So today's class started with a little bit of a whiteboard exploration. We reminded ourselves what Gregor Mendel had contributed, that he was the father of genetics because he saw these patterns. He saw that one trait was typically dominant over other traits. So there was a dominant version of the trait, the dominant allele, and then there was a recessive version of the trait. We call that the recessive allele. And that he did not know about chromosomes, but we since then would call these things autosomally linked because they're found on two of your first 22 pairs of chromosomes. However, there were quite a few things that we learned after Mendel and things that he didn't know about. So we looked at exceptions. You take a look at the first exception. This is when you would see in the heterozygote both traits being expressed. So when you look at big B, little b, you'll see that's black and white. The dominant and the recessive traits are typically expressed the normal way, but in the heterozygote, you'll see both presentations. That means neither of those traits is actually dominant. So we call this codominance because both are expressed at the same time in the heterozygote. We then looked at a second example. Second example would be when you have that same setup, but the heterozygote is actually a blend, a mixture. Black is not fully expressed, white is not fully expressed. You would see a gray coloring. This is very classic in fur color or coat color in dogs, cats, horses, and lots of different animals. In this case, the heterozygote is gray. So we don't see black and we don't see white. We actually see a middle of the road presentation. That means neither trait, big B or little b, is dominant. So we call that incomplete dominance. We looked at one more of those exceptions. This would be the blood type presentation. Listed here for number 3, you can see all 6 of the different genotypes we can have for blood. And you'll notice that there is an A and an O, and a B and an O. Those are type B bloods. So AA is type A blood, AO is type A blood, BB would be a genotype for type B blood, as is BO. And then we have a third presentation, that's type AB blood. You've probably heard of that before. And then we even have the type O blood. However, the O is always recessive to A, and the O is always recessive to B. But A and B are not recessive to each other. They would be an example of codominance, similar to what we saw over here with the first exception. Now, additionally, with this number 3 example, we don't just have a capital A and a lowercase. We have an A, we have a B, and we have an O. So we have 3 alleles instead of the normal 2. These are what we would classically call non-Mendelian genetics. They are on your autosomes, so males and females have an equal shot at inheriting them. The last exception we took a look at is this sex-linked trait. Mendel had no idea that traits could be different based on male and female. Sex-linked traits are only carried on your X's and your Y's, and because only X's are found in both biological males and biological females, in this class we'll only study the X-linked traits. So in this particular presentation, you can see that we have baldness. Baldness is a sex-linked recessive disorder, and the way that we write this out in the genotypes is we include the X's and the Y's for males versus females, and then we put the baldness allele, which would be the lowercase recessive allele, on only the X's. Females get 2 of these and males only get 1. Again, this type of presentation is called sex-linked, and they are very small numbers of traits out of the 20,000 traits humans have. This makes up a very small percentage, as you can imagine, because only males have Ys. So if it was a trait carried on the Y, that would only be fathers to sons. Males and females have X's, so it has a higher frequency as far as finding it in our population, and everyone's involved because everyone has at least one X. But these examples are very rare. So today we looked at our 4 non-Mendelian examples. And then we zoomed in and did a blood lab, which was right there in the middle.